Why do stories work? Research shows we remember information more effectively when it is told as a story. But when applying storytelling to science, you must remember that with great power comes great responsibility. In this video, we will explore how to use storytelling effectively, what works, what doesn't, and pitfalls to avoid. This video is one of a 5-part series by FoodStories exploring the use of storytelling for food science communication. Stories make abstract data relatable and allow the information to stick in the audience's memory through emotion and context. But when misused, they can overgeneralise, reinforce biases, or mislead audiences about scientific data. In this video, we want to help you balance storytelling with scientific accuracy, ensuring clear, impactful, and ethical communication. Let's get to it. Frame anecdotes in evidence. Stories and anecdotes are powerful entry points into complex topics. They help people connect emotionally. But beware, certain groups, for example individuals with limited scientific literacy, might misinterpret anecdotes as definitive evidence, especially if the story's emotional tone overrides the data. Over-reliance on anecdotes may then lead to so-called narrative fallacies, where isolated cases are mistaken as universal truths. Always anchor personal stories within robust, evidence-based findings. Connect every anecdote to data. For example, when sharing a case of real-life illness caused by food poisoning, include broader epidemiological trends. Show how the story fits within larger patterns. We might think it's clear that it is just a piece of the puzzle, but audiences may interpret personal stories as absolute truths. As researchers and communicators, we're not immune to bias. Personal preferences and confirmation bias influence the stories we choose to tell. If you're passionate about a specific type of farming, you may unconsciously highlight anecdotes that favor it while ignoring all evidence from other types of agriculture. Confirmation bias also makes us prioritize evidence that supports our assumptions. Acknowledge this risk when selecting stories. Ask yourself, why am I choosing this story? Does it reflect the broader evidence? Ask colleagues to read your message to help identify blind spots. Characters are also a great tool to ensure diverse perspectives are included. Balancing emotions and data. Emotion is the engine of storytelling, and it can create engagement and empower audiences to make informed decisions. But when misused, like when alarmist storytelling is used to grab attention, it can lead to fear-driven decisions. In the past, overly alarmist campaigns about pesticides led some people to avoid fruits and vegetables altogether, despite evidence showing that the health benefits of eating them outweigh the risks. A good example of balanced storytelling is the campaign "What's Your Kitchen Crime?" from Food Standards Scotland. It uses humour and relatability to encourage safer practices of food handling without creating unnecessary fear. Check our collection of best practices to read more about it. Another suggestion is to frame your message around shared values, like protecting family health. But always remember, that is preferable to use emotion to empower, not alarm your audience. Be careful when using phrases such as always dangerous or toxic. They are often used to catch attention in contexts where they are not scientifically accurate. Acknowledge uncertainty. Science is iterative and often full of unknowns. Ignoring this complexity or overstating uncertainty can both erode public trust. For instance, oversimplifying the effectiveness of a new dietary intervention may lead to public disillusionment if results don't meet expectations. Transparent communication about what is known, what is uncertain, and how knowledge evolves over time is essential. Incorporate humility into your stories. Acknowledge the limits of current knowledge while maintaining engagement. Analogies are a great way to help make abstract concepts relatable, including uncertainty. By comparing or representing complex information in more familiar terms, analogies can be easier to grasp for audiences that lack the foundations of the science we are trying to communicate. You could, for example, compare uncertainty to real-life situations like weather forecasts. Consider saying, While we can't predict a storm's exact path, we know the conditions that create it. This keeps audiences engaged while respecting scientific nuance. Avoid the lone genius narrative. One of the most common pitfalls in science storytelling is the glorification of the lone genius. While focusing on a single charismatic figure can make stories engaging, it misrepresents the collaborative nature of science. This approach not only overlooks the incremental collective progress that defines most scientific breakthroughs, but also creates unrealistic expectations in the general public that solutions are usually quick and driven by individuals alone. Tell stories about the process of science. Be transparent about the complexity and incremental nature of research. Instead of glorifying individuals, emphasize the collective effort and iterative failures that drive progress. Instead of framing the discovery of CRISPR as a eureka moment by one scientist, you could tell the story of decades of research, collaboration, and iterative failures that led to its development. Use language like, "This breakthrough builds on decades of prior work by countless researchers across the globe." Know your audiences. Storytelling is a tool, not a universal solution. Its effectiveness depends entirely on who your audience is, their cultural background, their level of scientific understanding, and the context in which your message is delivered. And sometimes, storytelling isn't the best choice. Always ask yourself, will a story clarify or distort my message for this audience? If it risks oversimplifying or being misinterpreted, opt for a straightforward explanation with supporting visuals or evidence instead. A clear case is if your target audience is a group of experts that prioritizes precision and detail. Simplifying complex findings into a story could be perceived as patronizing. In some cases, storytelling can backfire, confusing or alienating your audience instead of engaging them. We mentioned analogies being a good tool, but even this can backfire if you don't know who you are talking to. Analogies based on baseball or American football may resonate with US audiences, but will likely fall flat in Europe, where it is not among the most widespread sports. Instead, choose analogies or stories that are culturally neutral or tailored to your audience's context. In controversial topics, storytelling can be perceived as manipulative, especially if the story seems to oversimplify or omit nuance. There are some tips you can remember when you are communicating in these contexts. Acknowledge concerns without dismissing them. Instead of dismissing fears about pesticides outright, you could say, "Many people are concerned about pesticide use, so let's examine what the evidence tells us." Or, "Decades of research show their benefits, but let's explore today what the evidence says about potential risks." Connect opposing viewpoints, for example. While farmers and consumers may seem at odds over pesticide use, both share the goal of producing safe, healthy food. Want to keep experimenting with new ways to tell your story? Follow the links in the description to check out the other videos of this series. You will also find links to more resources created by the FoodStories Erasmus Plus project, focusing on storytelling and food science communication.